Time now for Morning Rounds, our look at the medical news of the week, beginning with another reason to safely dispose of expired and unwanted prescription drugs. The Food and Drug Administration says that many people who begin to misuse medications, like opioids, often get their first dose by using drugs prescribed to other people.
Today is Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, organized by the DEA and state and local partners. The last time the event took place was in October, when Americans turned in 366 tons of prescription drugs at almost 5,200 sites across the country. CBS News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Jon LaPook and CBS News contributor Dr. Tara Narula are here to tell us more about the concern with this. We all have this stuff in our bathroom cabinets. Why is it so important to turn this stuff in?
When you think about the span of how big this problem is, almost 6.5 million Americans are affected by prescription drug abuse. And we really have an epidemic in this country of addiction, overdose, and death, in particular from opioids. You know, drug overdose is now the leading cause of injury-related death, overtaking motor vehicle accidents or firearms. The majority, as you mentioned, of people who abuse prescription drugs are getting them from friends and family. So how is that happening? Well, drugs that are left in the medicine cabinet, in drawers, in the kitchen, on the shelves, or are thrown away inappropriately. This is a breeding ground for abuse, for meds that can be stolen, sold, or for children to get their hands on medication. So in the last 12 years through this program, they've been able to collect almost 7 million pounds of drugs. So this is really a great first step.
So this is a particularly good time of the year to be addressing this, but where can people turn in their medications the rest of the year?
Right. Well, it's kind of cool. On our website, you'll see a link to a website. There are these tools, and you put in your zip code, and up pops a bunch of pharmacies that are near you, mostly pharmacies, and you can go over there, and then they can safely dispose of whatever it is that you have. Now, they say specifically that if there is no such collection place near you, or if there aren't specific instructions on the bottle, then the FDA has this handy-dandy instruction guide. They say, follow these simple steps. One, mix. So mix the medicines. Don't crush the tablets or the capsules, and mix it with an unpalatable substance like dirt or kitty litter. Then place them in a container, such as a sealed plastic bag. Throw it in your household trash, and then, very important, scratch out any kind of identifiable information so that nobody else can take that. And then if it's empty, toss it out.
A lot of these locations, Tara, are not places you would think would have a service like this.
Yeah, so one of the places, as John mentioned, that's really safe and not intimidating is at the corner of Happy and Healthy, Walgreens. This is really one of the first.
It's not a Walgreens commercial.
No,
it's just what it is.
It is what it is. This is one of really the first retailers that's rolled out a national effort in the past year to deal with this epidemic. And they have kiosks in the pharmacy area that are open during pharmacy hours where you can come in, drop off your bottles. They've been able to collect the equivalent of 40 mid-sized cars, what that would weigh in just 1 year.
Wow. So clean out your medicine cabinet and you'll have so much more room for other new things.
All right, our next topic, one of the most devastating global diseases, malaria. This past Tuesday was World Malaria Day, meant to focus attention to the mosquito-borne disease. While malaria was eliminated from the U.S. in the early 1950s, it remains widespread and deadly across the globe, with the majority of cases reported in Africa.
According to statistics from the World Health Organization, in 2015, there were 212 million new malaria cases reported, resulting in an estimated 429,000 deaths. Okay, so, John, what kind of progress has been made on malaria in the last decade?
There actually has been huge progress. So between 2010 and 2015, the new cases fell by 21% and death rates fell by 29%. But still, you look at these statistics, we're not doing well enough. And the goal is by 2030 to have all of that fall by 90%.
And Tara, there's still a surprising number of cases in the U.S.
There is, and it's something that's really off our radar screen, but it is a public health problem in this country that accounts for morbidity and mortality. Now, most of this is travel related, so it's people traveling and returning with malaria, foreign visitors or immigrants. And it really is something that's preventable with pre-travel consultation. So you can get anti-malaria drugs, you can take precautions against mosquitoes, and if you have prompt and quick diagnosis, it's a problem that can be avoided. But when you look at the numbers, it is sort of staggering. When they looked between 2000 and 2014, there were about 22,000 hospitalizations for malaria, which is about 1,500 per year. 22% were severe cases and about 180 deaths. And in general, this is very costly to us as well. So for 4 days of hospitalization, the cost of treating someone with malaria around $25,000.
Wow. So, John, with globalization and climate change, mosquito-borne illnesses are almost here to stay in the eyes of some scientists. Is there hope of eradicating malaria from the planet at any point?
Oh boy, wouldn't that be great? You know, there are a bunch of different ways of going after it, but the most exciting thing is this vaccine. So the WHO announced just this past week that probably next year they're finally going to try in the trial in 3 places in Africa the first approved malaria vaccine. Now, I spoke a couple of years ago to Monsef Slaoui, who's the head of R&D for GlaxoSmithKline. He had spent 27 years of his life at that point, now it's 29, trying to develop this vaccine. Wow. The Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also involved other people. And it's 30 to 35% effective. You say, well, that's not that great. Yeah, but when you think about how many hundreds of thousands of people die each year. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. I want to be there when that first vaccine is given.
I like that we can end the malaria segment on a high note.
Yeah.
Drs. Jon LaPook and Narula, thanks for your time.